It's a match on Saturday. It's a match on Sunday. It's one on Monday. It's one on Tuesday. And I guess for him, he doesn't start, but right. And then you're gone. And it's a little bit of a safer style. And they are taking care of their stars. So a guy like AJ, there's no reason why he can't continue to do this for many, many more years.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So number 2 for you.
I'm going to go with, I'm kind of waffling between two, so I think I'll save the other one for the last. I'm going to go with Scott Hall. Razor Ramon. Razor Ramon, I always thought he was just the coolest thing ever when I was a kid. I mean, here's a guy, he looks like he's probably about 6'8". He's got a big, hairy chest with gold chains coming off of him. He moves around like he's the coolest guy in the world. And it seems like everybody's looking at him, like no matter where he steps into a scene, like he's just the coolest guy. And I think Scott Hall was ahead of his time. He moved really well for a big guy. I think we often forget that he was as big and as large and as thick as he was because of the style he worked and some of the matches he had. I mean, memorably, his 5-star WrestleMania 10 ladder match with Shawn Michaels. I mean, that's a big guy to be at that time, to be getting in there and doing those things. I mean, he's the same size. I mean, maybe a little less water weight, but he's a comparable size to a Hulk Hogan. He's a comparable size to these other guys that are, as close to 7 feet as they are to 6 and close to 300 pounds. And he's moving around, working this kind of other modern style. And from all accounts, like one of the smartest guys behind the scenes. That's come up with a lot of creative ideas. He's been credited with the Sting Crow gimmick. He receives a partial or majority credit for the New World Order Outsiders gimmick. It's one of the smartest guys ever, and so he's on my list for all those reasons.
Really good, and it's just he's one of those guys where you sort of sneakily realize he had a fantastic match. He and made guys in a way that the whole entirety of the NWO kind of gets painted with the same brush of they never made any stars in WCW because everybody just wanted to be in the NWO, and the NWO had to win, had to go over. But you think about a guy like Hall, he put guys on the map pretty consistently and was really one of those incomparable talents who was able to remain sort of at the top for the majority of his career and not be harmed by doing the favors for somebody. He was a really phenomenal talent. I'm glad. I'm also should say it's really great to see that he's doing so much better than he of course was for many years. Very happy to see him doing better these days. So I guess I'm on to my number 1, aren't I? I'm on to my last pick. It's rough because there's a few different guys that I could pick here. Could put in Mick Foley. Could put in Triple H, could put in The Undertaker, but for me, it's Austin. It's got to be Stone Cold Steve Austin. I wouldn't be a fan today without Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was the biggest thing in the world when I first started watching wrestling, and was when wrestling was at its hottest. Was smashing box office attendance records, was smashing apparel records, but that's none of that really matters. It's just when that glass shatters, that you're first of all you're going to see a great match, and the crowd just comes unglued and you just get amped up. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin, so many memorable moments. And even he was a great, badass babyface. He was a great conniving heel. He was a great funny heel. Some of his stuff in WCW, I remember sitting down on the couch in your Halifax apartment, Luke, when you lived here, watching Stone Cold stunning Steve Austin versus the natural Dustin Rhodes, and just like a phenomenal 2 out of 3 falls match for the U.S. title. Like,
yeah, what a great match.
Like, he's had this varied career, and then was like the biggest name in the history of the business, on top of like this amazing varied journeyman career, like, which would have been enough for him to be one of the greats. But then on top of that, he becomes Stone Cold Steve Austin. So my favorite, like, if I none of these are ranked, but like, I mean, Austin is my favorite wrestler of all time. He just is.
Well, yeah, if you're especially our age, like, it's hard to overstate the impact. I mean, he was the biggest star in wrestling at the time when wrestling was its most popular. Does he have the longevity of some of the other guys? We talk like a Flair or a Michaels or whoever. No, of course not. Like, he doesn't have a 30-year resume. Does it really matter? No, because he was the best at what he did, and just for a shorter time. Much like, I guess, if you're a hockey fan that goes into like Bobby Orr, people that remember Bobby Orr, they say like, no, he was just way better than everybody else. And if you weren't there, then like you don't understand. You kind of look at the numbers maybe, and you're like, okay, like he's good. Is he really that much better than a Wayne Gretzky or Mario Lemieux or Gordie Howe or whoever else? But apparently at the time, like Bobby Orr, it was like, no, this is obvious that he's the greatest. So it's very similar to that, where I think if you watch wrestling from 1975 to 1996, and then again from 2003 to present, you would have missed this great thing that happened in this specific set of circumstances where, you know, he made it happen. I don't want to make it sound like it was the circumstances that did it. Like, it's just the way things went, and he got so hot at that time, and probably never be anything like it again. And not to belabor your point, but you mentioned the glass shattering, and he's left such an impact that I was watching Stranger Things, and kind of, you know, I'm watching it, but, you know, I'm kind of on my phone and half paying attention, and it's late at night, and glass shattered, and it's like Pavlov's dog. Glass shattered on the screen, and my neck cranked up, and I tuned right in. Legitimately, the synapses fired. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Because you're half asleep. You're like, oh, Austin's here. And it's like, no, that's just the sound of glass breaking. It's not. No reason, you know, 20 years ago, there's no reason why you should associate that specific sound with him, but I'll never be able to associate it with anything else. And every time I still, from being, you know, a pre-adolescent at that time, whenever the glass shattered and you maybe were reading a magazine or playing with toys on the floor, like your neck cranked up because it was, you know, business was about to pick up. So he's number one. He should be number one on any list. I didn't do this in any specific order, so this may seem a little, it's anticlimactic after Steve Austin, but it also does make sense in a way. My fifth guy is Chris Jericho. And Chris Jericho, of course, he did win the Undisputed title by beating The Rock and Steve Austin on the same night, which is a pretty big honor for him to make him as the top guy. But here's another guy that's had so many different iterations and who continues to churn out great things and to reinvent himself. I mean, he had great matches in the mid-90s when he was in the Thrill Seekers, and then in ECW and WCW, into the WWE. And now he's going to be in a semi-main event in New Japan's biggest show of the year against Kenny Omega, which is unbelievable, right? Like, he's still a headliner, and I have no doubt that he could headline any show on any continent against anybody, and it would deliver still. You can't reasonably expect this to go on forever. I mean, he's going to be 50 soon, but whatever he loses in terms of athleticism, he seems to gain in terms of psychology and storytelling, and also just his comedic value, I find, continues to grow. And so for that, I mean, he's in my top five, and very deserving, I believe, of consideration as one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, another person that I could have put on my list too, because I do really absolutely love Chris Jericho, and like I think he's a guy kind of when I was talking about AJ earlier, like he's a guy at 47 could be making the template for AJ, because like you say, he still competes to such a great level, but like not only that, like he has been involved in some of the most creative, interesting, and engaging things in wrestling. I think about his return after his absence to the company with the whole Save Us 222 thing. He is really creative, visionary, and one of the absolute greatest of all time for sure. You know what? We went quite a ways with this, Luke. I think that we covered some good ground here, though. Might break this up into a couple of different episodes, but I think this has been a really great time, and I want to thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and always happy to chat, whether it's on the record or not. I guess you're giving us the go home cue.
Yes, sir. Social media, you want to throw anything out there? I think your Twitter's blocked or locked, but
it's all locked up right now. I mean, I'm at TLuke, like T as in a cup of tea, and Luke as in my name. So if you send me a follow request, I'll probably accept it. But I'm keeping social media on the down low. I use it pretty sparingly lately. So, but it's always there.
Well, once again, Luke, thank you so much. Have a great night, and thank you so much for being on the show.
Great. We'll talk to you again soon.
Great.
So apparently what happens when I don't have a plan for the show, it ends up being almost an hour long. This show is produced by me with music from Home Plays Here. You can check them out at loyaltyfreakmusic.com. You can follow the show on facebook.com/The John DuLong Show and email into the show at johndulong@gmail.com. Of course, you can follow me on social media at Jibberdy, Jiberdy. Luke is on at TLuke on Twitter. Throw him a follow request and he'll probably let you in. Make sure you subscribe to the show on iTunes or Google Play, and if you could, rate and review, as it helps to get more folks listening. Another great way is you can tell a friend about the show, get the word out, and of course, make sure that you tune in every Monday for the weekly dose of Monday morning nonsense. We made it through episode 13, guys. We did it. Somehow, some way. Honestly, it was like I had these plans up until like 5:30 on Saturday, which is when I'm recording this, and I worked on Sunday, so had to throw this together last minute. Oh my! So anyhow, hopefully we'll be back on track next week with a regular episode, perhaps a little bit better thought out, a little bit less rambly. Maybe the rambling is what you like. I don't know. Anyhow, for John DuLong, I'm John DuLong, and remember, no matter how empathetic your kids are, German kids will always be kinder. Thanks. I'm not even gonna do like a big thing. I'm just gonna I do a little after the credits thing. I'm not doing it this time. Not doing it at all. Bye.